Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty. On Thursday, May 16th, joined by Denny Carter, Kyle Dvorchak, and the most special of guests, Mr. Davis Mattek. You may know him from Sports Grid, from the Take Cast, from the Swole Cast, from the Corain Cast, any cast whatsoever you know him for. He's out there with opinions. And, recently, so I'm drawn, to fantasy football negativity. And Davis recently tweeted a list of players he would not touch at their current ADP. He also had a list of players that he would take at their current ADP. I just kind of ignored that, though.
You've been a hater as of late on the show, because we could talk about prospects and our takes have no ability to be verified until a few months, really a few years from now. And that's really let your hater flag fly. He was like, bust. Busto, giga bust, mega super bust. It's been kind of fun, to be honest, to have you be a little bit of that hater.
That's fun. But yeah, Davis has got a list. We're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about the schedule. But we would be remiss if we didn't ask you how you're doing, Davis. How are you doing?
Look, it's May 16th. The sun is shining. I could be out working on my golf game, but I'm not, because I got to draft 1,000 best ball teams before the season starts in September. So I'm here in the take dungeon. I've got my phone here. I've got a draft going here. I am locked in, making sure that I'm correlating, Jaden Daniels with Rondale Moore for the Week 17 Commanders Falcons game. We are
17. Week 17 is old news. Didn't you hear the EV is 0.07% higher to get Week 16 teams in advance, because the payout structure in the Week 17 is flat.
I was hoping we'd get here, because I feel as if we are letting the nerds go too far with the Week 16 stuff, because at the end of the day, no one cares about the 17th place finisher in the Chihuahua, right? It's really all about the $1 million or more, and that is what I'm interested in. $1 million or more.
I'll take 17th place, whatever that means.
If I don't get first in the Great Dane, there's really no point in doing it.
Pat just said that as a joke, but they do actually have a tournament called the Great Dane.
Serious?
So reality has outpaced parody at this point.
Yeah, so Davis hit on an interesting point. The schedule release, it's fun for some people. The teams, they bring out Tim Robinson. They even make a funny video. But for best ball drafters, it's a moment of existential crisis, because then they actually know the Week 16 and 17 schedule. And then that's when the drafting season actually begins. And so the other day I saw someone ran into Justin Herzig at the grocery store, and he was just drafting at the grocery store. I mean, are you saying that's you, Davis? So I get the feeling 1,000 teams isn't really a bit.
Oh God.
Oh, it's not a bit, but no, I am not Herzigian in that level, in the sense that I really segment these things out, where it's like, if I'm going to go golf, I am going to go golf. If I'm going to go to the grocery store, I'm going to go to the grocery store.
Okay.
But that means that the drafting time, it's got to be very focused. So I'm not drafting and working. It's like I'm drafting 6 teams at a time, and I'm locked in.
To be clear, I would say you are working right now in a sense, and you are drafting right now. So I'm
actually not. No, I'm not. I am not. I mean, I'm probably on the clock in a slow draft somewhere right now.
I heard you had a draft on a screen somewhere.
That's pretty huge. That is huge, actually, that Davis is giving us the courtesy of not drafting.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Not sure.
I think the walking the dog and drafting meta is pretty strong. That's a pretty easy multitask. You have a good walker.
Correct. Yes, my dog is. I mean, she's 10, so she's slowing down a little bit. So it's honestly so GTO, and she gets it. She knows sometimes we gotta wait. It's sometimes we gotta wait. If I have to Google the Week 17 matchup, she'll just sit and be patient for a second while I figure out who the Lions play in Week 17.
So you mentioned Week 17. Or you go, Denny.
Did you mention Wan'Dale Robinson in there somewhere?
No, that was Rondale Moore you mentioned for the Washington correlation.
Oh, Rondale Moore.
All right, we can edit that.
But I mean, I will if we want to do just an hour on Wan'Dale, we can.
Okay.
We can do it.
Yeah, we mentioned the schedule. We mentioned Week 17 and the best ball obsession with correlating, stacking. What's the other one too? I mean, contrarianing. I can't think of the right word.
Combinatorial ownership.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
man, that's what I was out. I was like, oh man, these nerds just want to feel special. I can't stand it.
So the schedule is out. We do have takeaways. One of my takeaways, Week 1, is pretty good. So you guys care about best ball. I only care about revenge games. I went through this with Kevin Clark recently on a podcast. I outlined my 3 favorite Sean Payton revenge games. He has Nathaniel Hackett. He has Russell Wilson. He has the Saints.
I was going to say, do the Broncos and Saints play this year?
Yeah, they do. And week 7 in New Orleans, where I posited to Kevin, that'll be the week Sean Payton's going to win that revenge game, and he's going to really, more than an act of revenge, I say it'll be an act of mercy, because I predicted he's going to get Dennis Allen fired in week 7, and Dennis Allen will be gone. So there's a lot of good stuff. Check out, Kyle, you have an article on the schedule, by the way, correct? Tell the people about that real quick.
Yeah, as soon as we got the fantasy playoff stuff, this is I framed it in a best ball sense, but like same stuff applies to a smaller degree, but same stuff applies in your season long leagues. Just breaking down the best basically playoff runs 15 through 17, and then more so for best ball, the best matchups for the final week 17. So use a lot of the like EPA data from last year. Tried to prognosticate forward a little bit too, because some of that, like Bears don't really care what they did last year on offense. We know they're a different team type of stuff. So.
Hopefully that's true. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully there's not challenge accepted for Matt Eberflus, but I believe you're right there. But Davis, we kind of already hinted at it. Kyle just hinted at it. We were briefly talking before we came on air. Not a bit. It seems like the schedule takeaway for best ball drafters is that it's totally over for the Dolphins, who I believe are playing at Cleveland in week 17, which we know will have like a roiling Lake Erie hurricane that weekend. And apparently it's totally over for the Lions, who they have only 3 outdoor games, but 2 of them happen to be during the best ball playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Jared Goff dome, non-dome splits, they're startling. Yeah. And you could say, I mean, look, Kyle is going to zoom out even further on the chart than I am and be like, I don't care. I still want Khalif Raymond as my bring back to Deebo Samuel. I will say to that,
bring backs is what I was forgetting about earlier.
Bring backs.
Oh,
so
okay,
to that, what I would say is, generally speaking, I think it's true if you can't point to a reason why something is true. So why would it be true that Jared Goff would struggle outdoors? He has the literal smallest hands of a starting quarterback in the NFL. This is it's actually true.
Yeah,
it's true.
He also quite literally never plays outdoors very often. Like up until his point in Detroit, like so much of his career was playing in California on the West Coast. I don't generally buy this. I will say, I 100% buy this for Tua. This is not a good thing for Tua.
Also 100% buy it for Tua. I buy it more
Goff,
for Tua.
At Jared Goff, I'm a little more like, I don't know. Maybe he can survive. Maybe more so the offense can survive, because Jared Goff didn't do anything versus the 49ers when they played last. They also saw 65 combined points scored. It was just, it came mostly on the ground from both teams, not just from the Lions. Bills, that should be a fun matchup. A lot of points should be scored. I'm not sold that the Bills defense can survive just a mass exodus of talent for cap purposes.
I'm sure it'll be better, because now it's just younger players that'll do exactly what McDermott
now it's just
does.
UDFA 7th rounders, these 22-year-old Zoomers running around.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Zoomer, yeah,
so
Zoomers
I'll just say this, Kyle. In Jared Goff's Lions career, so 2021, 2022, 2023, 23 road games, 25 home games, 15.8 points in the road games, 22.3 points in the home games. So
some would say stark.
Some would say there's at least, you could point out there being a difference in those two numbers.
I don't know if we've just entirely read out their schedule. They get home Buffalo, then they get road Chicago. That should be a fun game.
Could be
San
fun.
Francisco.
Yeah,
but you're right.
Eberflus was playing lockdown defense last year. It's totally over, man.
No.
It's totally
it's September. It's gonna be fine weather-wise.
No, it's December, man.
Yeah, this is the final 3 weeks.
It's
over. So it is over then. Yeah.
We really had a fully. We're Barackett's Jover moment for Denny. He went through the whole cycle in about 1.6 seconds. No, I mean I agree. I think the matchups, if they were neutral indoor games, would be nuts, because I think the Bills are going to score a bunch of points, and I don't trust their defense. Bears defense improved over the second half of last year. I don't know if I buy a 6-game sample of them trading for one player and then becoming the 84 Bears. I think they're probably a middle of the pack team. I think they're a very good offense, and we know the 49ers are a good offense. I like when 2 good offenses play each other. That typically leads to a lot of.
It's fine. I'm not gonna I moved St. Brown down 1 spot behind Bijan and Brees, whereas I had him ahead of Brees. I am just going to keep taking Jahmyr Gibbs, because I think the elite running back group is a tier of 4 players, and it doesn't make sense to start diversifying after that. But Laporta, I wasn't really that into before, and now I'm less into. And I mean, Jameson Williams, I mean, who knows? I guess like
over.
literally,
They might just leave him off the team now. You can't play in week 16 and 17. What's really the point?
Yeah, what's the point? What's the point?
Well, the
Miami's bad though. Miami's the one where like I watch two and I'm like, yep, I get when it gets below 40, he's not good, and when he has to go on the road and all these factors.
The Dolphins are so shook. I keep harping on this, but Joe Shad, who is a good Dolphins reporter, was like, with not a bit, was concerningly tweeting about them playing outdoors on November 3rd in Buffalo. I'm like, dude, if it's this over for Tua that you guys are worried about November 3rd
too,
you cannot pay this guy.
I mean, this is what Tua did outdoors in October against Buffalo last year. 25 of 35 for 282 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 4 sacks. Like it was Jover in October for this man. You know, it's not great for the Miami Dolphins out.
Dolphins playoff schedule based on last year's defensive EPA is the second hardest. It's not extremely sticky, but it's not nothing either. And it checks out that they end with Cleveland, an extremely talented.
I mean,
We're going to be starting like Taylor Heineke by week 17. You know, the Browns game plan is going to be, let's just get in and out of here as much as possible.
And that's right. Like part of my optimism for the Lions was that they play fun offenses. Like if they can figure out how to make Jared Goff work when it's cold or windy outside, all systems go. Maybe it doesn't happen. But as far as Miami goes, that Cleveland game, Cleveland has so far under Deshaun Watson to go to be a good offense that not only are they running into an absolute wood chipper of a defense on the road in Cleveland, but I don't have a ton of faith that the Browns ever pull through this like franchise destroying / altering decision to trade for Watson. They've shown me almost nothing that says they can. So week 17 seems very bad for them. Week 16, I believe home versus San Francisco. I think that should be
the home game is against the 49ers. Like, come on, man. At least it could be a shootout, I guess. But that's why I think it's okay.
Exactly.
Not going to show up again. So,
then at Houston, another one should be a fun game, and the weather at least will be good. But man, that week 17, that is whew.
I mean, the odds of the weather being nice on December 29th in Cleveland, Ohio are just 0.0. Like, there's no point in pretending.
No, I need to caution you guys on this because this was my whole bit last year. Last year was an El Nino year, and my whole bit was they paid this quarterback $260 million to play in an outdoor stadium next to a lake, and then it ended up, I believe, being the highest scoring game of Week 17, the Jets Browns game. So I would just
of course they had Joe Flacco at that point. Of course,
come on, that's totally different.
Yeah, Slinging Joe.
You told me before the season they had Flacco. I'd be like, all right,
I would have been all in. Elijah Moore, all in. Yeah.
So that's enough schedule talk for now. I think we'll move on to ADP talk. So we got a list of players. Davis said he cannot take their current ADP. It's big names like Saquon Barkley, Brandon Aiyuk, Stefon Diggs, Josh Jacobs, Mr. CJ Stroud. That's going to really be a hard.
So I got to do some slight revisionist on this here, which is that
you get back on all of them.
That what happened?
No, not all of them, but on Diggs and Stroud and Nico and Dell. I mean, you want to talk about a game that could end up being like hair on fire, that Houston-Baltimore game in week 17. I mean, that just given the what's everything in the AFC, that could be anything from the Texans have to win this game to be in playoff contention to it's for the 1 seed. Like that could literally be the game for the 1 seed. I mean, the AFC is just crazy. And you've got the reigning MVP and everyone's favorite younger quarterback. So I will be drafting Texans Ravens guys where I wasn't as jazzed about it before.
We'll get to the Texans in a minute. We will start with Saquon Barkley, who just throwing out schedule, throwing out correlation, any of that. His ADP right now on Underdog is 15.3. He's the RB5. I mean, just on its face, this is totally aspirational to me.
It's preposterous.
It's absolutely preposterous. From a very sharp drafting group, though, and Underdogs, I'm sure there are good arguments in favor for Saquon Davis, but I'm totally with you. You might as well not even draft a team. I feel like if you're making Saquon Barkley like your late first or early second round pick, making him the 5th running back off the board, I feel strongly about it. But why do you feel strongly about it?
Well, mostly what we need from running backs are touchdowns and receptions. That's kind of the driver of how you get fantasy points. Like Saquon Barkley could rush for 1,600 yards as an Eagle and like literally not matter for your fantasy team at all. Like be like worse than like David Montgomery because it came with 4 rushing touchdowns and 37 receptions. Like he could get outscored in any given week by Jaleel McLaughlin getting Pierre Thomas work. Like Hurts scores all the touchdowns and he never throws to the running back. Like we were just begging. Like DeAndre Swift would have a 2 for 17 game as a receiver, and we'd be like, "Oh, things are looking up in the receiving backfield for the Eagles." Like it's going to be good for them as a real team, and I think it might even be an example of the nerds being wrong about running backs don't matter, like replacing Swift with Barkley. But how does this help our fantasy teams unless they stop doing the tush push, which is just not going to happen?
Well, so first off, it's interesting you made that point about it might be good, like in real life, because I think the Eagles admitted they were tired of running backs by committee. They were tired
by it.
They were tired of the most important snaps of the game. Like, where's Boston? Got to get Boston on the field. Where is he? Like racing Boston Scott onto the field. When I don't know, dude, maybe your number one running back should just be on the field for the most important plays. So I think that was part of the Saquon Barkley calculus. I think I've made this point to Denny, though. I don't know. Jason Kelce retiring and Jalen Hurts playing through the knee all last year. I do wonder if the tush push is being reassessed. They might try to actually save some of the wear and tear from Jalen Hurts inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah,
I don't the definition of a theory, but I don't think it's absurd on its face.
Yeah, we shouldn't run the free touchdown play anymore.
Off the top of your head, guess the success rate of the tush push last 2 years.
I don't need to guess. 100% I witnessed it.
It's 98%. They failed on it. They failed on it once.
The free touchdown play was so good.
The free touchdown play revolved around a Hall of Fame center, though. Like you really can't overstate how important
Jalen Hurts is as strong as the four of us combined. It's not just Kelce. Like Jalen Hurts. It's very easy to criticize him because our memory we saw most recently of him is, getting blown out at home by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But he is like a superhuman at that play.
Denny, you haven't spoken for a while. Where do you fall on this? We've just been whenever we start to yell and shout, poor Denny.
I don't yell and shout.
Sorry.
Jason Kelce. I mean, come on, Jason Kelce can be replaced. Come on, please.
Let's go.
Wow.
Let's go.
You sure about that?
Like an undersized center. Like sure.
He's like the strongest guy in America, pound for pound.
A podcast host at center? Come on.
I mean, they're definitely going to get someone else to dive at the knees of defenders and let Jalen Hurts score and touchdown. That's it. It'll be fine.
Oh, man. I think you're probably ultimately right. Or I think in their perfect world, they would save that wear and tear from Jalen Hurts, but it's just too valuable.
The margins are too thin.
Yeah, the margins are too thin. It's the same thing with the Bills. Hey, Josh Allen ain't going to run every 3rd and 4th, and he's running.
At what date will we get the report that Josh is going to run less this year? We thinking like July 17th. It'll be like, oh yeah,
right. Yeah, maybe August 1st.
No, June during mandatory minicamp.
I was going to ask you for the date.
Josh. Yep, totally new Josh. June 18th, he's not running, and the 1st, 3rd, and 4th of the season, he rushes for 18 yards and takes a huge hit, like right at the sideline. Yeah. He just doesn't go out for some reason and just gets blown up right at the sideline. That'll be what happens to Josh Allen. So, anyone have a counter take, by the way, to Saquon? Is anyone comfortable with Saquon as the RB5?
Not on this show.
He's not going to score any touchdowns. Who cares? He's not even close. Like he would have to drop to like the 4th round or 5th round for me to even be somewhat interested.
I think I agree with. Despite, I do think Davis is right that the Eagles they're done with the committee. But I also think that Davis is right that it just doesn't matter in fantasy that they're done with the committee. And not that Saquon is going to be like a ruinous pick as long as he stays healthy. But he's not going to be winning leagues.
Remember taking Zeke in the 1st round where it's like, he finished as running back 9. How can that be bad? But it just ultimately didn't matter.
Yeah, you need people who win weeks. And Saquon does not profile as a week winner. Even in we're talking about crazy best ball, just in standard redraft, he does not profile as a week winner. Saquon.
Yeah, I mean, if he had signed as a free agent with the Packers, instead of Josh Jacobs, sure. Yeah, then I'd be like, oh my God, I'll take him at 6th overall or whatever, but he just didn't go to the right spot.
So Davis, you have chosen sides in the Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk debate. You said you're in on Deebo as the wide receiver 14, right around the end of the 2nd round, but you are very much out on Brandon Aiyuk mid-2nd round, wide receiver 11. Why have you taken up a Deebo and not Brandon Aiyuk?
So one, I like Adams more than Aiyuk, and Adams goes after. So it's pretty easy to just take the guy who Adams wasn't even good last year and was still good. Like he just straight up was you kind of would forget he was on your team, and he ends up with 170 targets, and I think he only scored 5 touchdowns last year. So he wasn't like super impactful.
Oh, so now they're not important all of a sudden, huh?
Yeah, so now they're not important all of a sudden. And then, I mean, it's just like I keep waiting for evidence that Aiyuk is better than Deebo, and then it just never seems to happen. Like if you're looking for a guy who will score 37 points in a game, I mean, it's Deebo. Like I think I looked this up the other day. Aiyuk is at 0 games in his career with more than 28 PPR points, which is like, I mean, obviously it's a very high bar. But Deebo has 4 30 or more point games in his career. It's just pretty evident if you're trying to win $1.5 million who the better player is.
But the same logic again applies to redraft, where you need to win weeks. Like you need guys who have matchup flipping ability. And yeah, I mean, Denny, how do you feel? So say Aiyuk and Deebo both still end up on the team in week 1. Aiyuk too, like he's the class, like he has to do all of his production on 7 to 8 targets per game. Like he's never spiking to 8 to 10. Like always has to be on 7 to 8 targets per game. How do you feel?
I mean, the only way he's doing that is if Kittle or Deebo misses time, and
that'll never happen.
Maybe he can get there. Right. I mean, and hey, we have some soft tissue issues with these two guys, so maybe he could get there. But I mean, the way he's being drafted is a little bit crazy, I think.
Well, especially because they have, no offense to Juwan Jennings, who actually is better. Oh, every time I look up his stats, like, those are actually kind of good. But the 49ers do have like a legit number 3 receiver this year, and Ricky Pearsall, at least we think they do. Like a kind of guy who could be like the ultimate chain mover and like basically further erodes any like target upside Brandon Aiyuk's going to have. Like, I just feel like having like a target earning number 3 receiver.
I don't think Pearsall's good at all, but I do think that Shanahan will force the issue and be like, he's the centerpiece of our offense. And I'm speaking in exaggerations, but I do think that he's going to force Pearsall on the field a lot and draw up some plays for him, and that's not good for Aiyuk, who, like you said, I mean, we're talking about 7 to 8 targets, and that's it.
So Deebo wins weeks. It's important. It is more important in best ball though. Like the Deebo,
it's important in everything though. Like, and it's not to say that Aiyuk is a bad pick, because I don't think that's true.
Yeah, because David, I'd say Deebo, we almost have to bake in that he will miss time. And so, like, if you're a more conservative, normally redraft league, do you have to reassess? That's kind of where I was going.
So I think that's kind of fine, because how many, like, you can just get like 13 points off the waiver wire in like most 12-team league, 18-man rosters. Like you can pick up, at Josh Downs or whatever. AD Mitchell is out. I'm going to pick up Wandale. I'm going to pick up Darius Slate. Just like you can kind of just work your way around that, but you're not going to find guys who can get 35 in a game.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, anyone here taking Aiyuk over Deebo? Yeah, so make the case.
Aiyuk only curb stomped him in every advanced metric last year. 2 years younger. He's clearly the one they value more, because Deebo is the one was on the trade block. He had more 100-yard games last year. He did have one 30-point game last year. It was like 8 PPR, full PPR, 8 122. Like
Davis exposed.
I do agree. It's frustrating that Aiyuk, like, not the most spike weeks per talent. Like, I think he is more talented than his counting stats have shown.
Well, he only gets the ball like 105 times a season. So there's like really only
we got to get more targets for this guy, Aiyuk, man. Like, he's just like been screaming out for them, and Kyle Shanahan just cannot do it, will not do it. Mostly because of CMC, I feel like even more than Deebo is what's really.
It's totally it's that the offense is so CMC centric that like you just got to make your hay. I mean, George Kittle had a game with 3 targets and 3 touchdowns last year. Like if you want to be a 49er, a fantasy relevant player, you got to score 2 touchdowns on 7 interactions.
Yeah, I think it's tough to say though that like the spike weeks and the touchdowns, which are pretty tied together, like. Deebo has such a massive edge because it feels like the most random aspect of what these guys do is the clumps in which their fantasy points are scored. The more stable thing is the advanced numbers, even just the raw counting stats. Deebo had like 800 yards last year. Aiyuk had nearly 1,400. He was way better in all the advanced metrics. Like, there's probably something going on that leads to not quite as many spike weeks per yard per talent.
The big play machine doesn't go burr, man.
Deebo
gets 700-yard games last year. It still goes burr.
Deebo gets the fake touchdown plays though. Like Deebo gets the Kyle Shanahan. Can I swear? Is that? Do we
think so? Yeah, we'll edit it. Yeah,
Not the worst one.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you planning on saying?
Deebo gets the totally fake, entirely created by Shanahan 17-yard rushing touchdowns that are just like, there in no way are they real football plays. They shouldn't count, but they do. You get the fantasy points for them, even though it's completely fake.
We do. You're allowed to say the F word that's fake. We are informed you cannot say the actual F word.
like Ray McLeod could score the Deebo rushing touchdowns, but they just give them to Deebo.
Oh, I absolutely love when people go, 'cause it's not real football, man. Like Kyle Juszczyk. Oh wow, yeah, 4 touchdowns, Kyle Juszczyk.
Not real. It's not real.
Let me know what you're gonna do with the coin toss in overtime, man. All right, it's not a real football decision. Let me know what you're gonna do there. All right.
As a flag football coach, I admire Kyle Shanahan's play design. I try to incorporate that into the way I operate.
Kyle Shanahan would wreck the Maryland 10 to 12-year-old flag football league.
I mean, he is right now in the form of Denny Carter. You guys are undefeated or something like that? I don't know.
No, we're 2-2. We just lost to the 49ers, who had a kid who was 6'2". So,
Yikes. Down horrific. So we'll be right back after this. The second leg of the Triple Crown will be run on Saturday. Watch the Preakness Stakes at Pimlico Racecourse. The action begins at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Talk about down horrendous. Muth out of the race.
I know. And folks? Adam Wise, our producer, he said, put all your money on Muth, and I did, and now I'm broke.
Horsey blinked. Horsey not a gamer. Horsey blinked. He choked. Yeah, and no one else want to go. I don't know what else to say about Muth. Yeah. Muth down horrific. We are moving on, though. We are not. We're doing just fine, even though it's negativity today. Davis, Stefon Diggs, ADP of 26 right now. He's the wide receiver 17. This is another one that seems like pretty easy to be out on, but as evidenced by his ADP, many people are not out on him.
Well, the people got psyoped by this CJ. CJ Stroud scored like 18.5 fantasy points per game last year, so we might be going a little too heavy on the CJ. I mean, I don't want to be out on CJ Stroud, but we might. He's pretty far up there, man. And it's also like a tried and true formula for failure. I feel like it's chasing like the hot finish for a rookie quarterback. He's got nowhere to go but up. You see what he did against the Joe Flacco, and
I didn't hear much of these vibes when we talked about Jordan Love briefly. I'd love to hear.
I actually am all in on truthing.
I'm also all in on Jordan.
Talk about a guy who ran unsustainably hot. What? He ran unsustainably hot, man.
Oh, he's so good, guys. You don't know.
You're gonna keep back-footing touchdown throws your entire career.
You got to get off that take. I'm begging you to get off that take.
I've been on that he's good too.
Who? Which one?
That Love is going to regress. He's legit. He's like
he's just too good.
I do agree. I've made this point many times last year. I do think Love ultimately won't really regress much because he just plays quarterback differently, and he actually attempts risky
Watch
throws.
CJ Stroud. Are you kidding me?
I know.
He's better than Stroud.
Well, can I make a point about fake football cheating, which is that Love has a cheating OC. He's got a guy from the Shanahan tree who's a cheater, whereas it seems like the
Shanahan tree. What's going on in Houston? There's a Shanahan tree guy in Houston.
The Texans
Bobby ain't Shanny, man.
On Stroud last year. Slowick was like, all right, it's 2nd and 8.
He held him back.
Terry up the gut every time.
It was awful for the first 2 months of the season.
It was awful in the most must-win week 17. Remember, he attempted 21
If you only look at the bad weeks, I bet it does look bad. Over the second half of the season, they started to put the foot on the gas a little bit. They had a positive.
Except for when they took it off.
Yes, I concede that if you only look at bad data points, the data points look bad.
All right.
Sounds like Seinfeld.
Yeah, you can finish your point.
I see the middle of summer has brought out the worst in all.
It's that Simpsons quote that you broke out before the casting. Everything looks bad if you remember it.
I love that. You say that once a month, and I love it.
Okay, I do have a question though. What if the Texans had lost that playoff game, the first one? What do you think? Do you think it's totally recontextualized if they don't just completely go nuclear? And that I feel like would have been a little recontextualized.
He did go nuclear.
About how a playoff blowout might recontextualize things. Let me point you to one Jordan Love.
Well, no,
Jordan Love was doing it. Jordan Love was doing it for the entire back half. It's like I was ready for it to be Jover for Jordan Love after a month. I was like, Oh, it's
was
totally Jover. And
We
then
said it was Jover. We did.
yeah, and then he was Barack. He was Barack in a big way.
It was all the way Barack. But Stroud went nuclear a lot down the stretch too. But there were still those inexplicable games, especially the Panthers game. That was still more like middle.
Yeah, you go back if you want to have a good time. Go back and remember the lone game that the Panthers won, and then remember who it, because it's the funniest possible answer every time you think about it. Who did the Panthers beat?
Yeah, it's insane. I agree with the PFF Bobby True thing, but the point we have made on the show, they do seem ready to change the offense. They make the aggressive move for Steph Diggs. They make the aggressive move for like the running back who's not efficient running anymore, but is still efficient catching the ball, and Joe Mixon. It does seem like they're ready to spread it out a lot more and go all in on CJ Stroud's arm. But even if they do that, Steph Diggs, man, in the what round is the early third? It's just like, what is the true upside there when you've already got like the established alpha Nico Collins, the really promising young player who is coming off a very concerning injury in Tank Dell?
The upside would be that the Tank Dell thing was totally a creation of CJ Stroud being incredible, and he goes back to being like a 4.5 target per game guy, and Diggs gets 8.7 targets per game, and Nico Collins is basically the MVS of the offense, but like good at it and like able to generate stats. And it's totally possible. I mean, obviously when you're fading a guy who's been as good as Diggs has been, it's worrisome, but it's like, and like Dalton Schultz is going to get some targets. It's a Shanahan. Well, it's a Shanahan style offense. So you can like, the running backs are going to get at least 12 to 15% of the targets. Just
the running backs are going to get a lot more targets than they did last year in the Texans offense. That's the only reason you get Joe Mixon at this point. They want a rim finisher, which he does well. I mean, talk about a guy who catches 3rd and 4 passes. Like that's what.
I mean, and so it's like, wow, how many passes is Stroud? Is going to throw 650 passes? Like, and this is like you get into old takes exposed territory pretty quickly, but like
we have been there for about 5
That would never happen to you, Davis.
Stefon Diggs was outgained in the back half of the season by Khalil Shakir on like 900 more targets than Shakir had. He had after week 6, he had 0 100-yard games. Like it was bad.
I'm defending Stroud a lot because I think he's really good. I'm not really going to show up to bat for Stefon Diggs, given how poorly his tenure ended in Buffalo. And when we have 2 players who were much, much younger and elite last year, better than Stefon Diggs was in Tank Dell and Nico Collins, like this is especially a spot where I just like, give me the guys who are youngest and not priced up despite coming off of a bad year. And to me, that's like Tank Dell almost as a priority, given that I think Stroud is the truth. And I think the difference between this team and the Packers as well, Packers are very cheap. You can get Dontavion Wicks, who could be like the 3rd receiver. This team's Tank Dell. So late. That's kind of the big difference. Where I gave you guys a lot of.
He's the best pick on the board, right? Like
really
it's
good.
like
I like
it's like the ultimate. Like if you want to convince people on the internet, ball, you're like, dude, Dontavian Wicks, that guy can play. Like you just got to say something like that, and people be like, oh, ball, dude.
Kyle, you don't think Tank Dell's a little priced up? ADP of 42. So Patrick Crane was texting me like, you should maybe cool it on the Tank Dell slander, which he is correct about, because I was all in on Tank Dell last year. I'm just so concerned when this happens with players, where the pre-draft knock on Tank Dell was that he was too small and he could get hurt easily in the NFL. And when he does suffer like that really catastrophic, like lower body orthopedic injury, I think that will spook the Texans like a lot more than maybe fantasy managers are willing to admit. Because when your concern comes to fruition as a rookie, I feel like they'll have a hard time like unremembering that. And almost certainly had to be part of the calculus for going and getting Stefon Diggs, where Tank is such a fun playmaker. Like he's a legit game breaker. But I wonder if they're going to make him more of like a package player and try to ration his usage.
I think Tank has probably the lowest floor. I think he could just straight up not play, 30% of the snaps, basically anytime they move out of three receiver personnel. But like you said, the reasons for drafting him: he's young, he's super explosive, can change the outcome of a game in one play, and he's playing with a young, super explosive quarterback on an offense that designs plays really well for that quarterback and for Tank Dell. Yeah, like I think he's probably got the lowest floor. I wouldn't pencil him into playing nearly as many snaps, running as many routes as the other two. But when he's the cheapest of the bunch, and I think they're almost like completely evenly distributed in terms of talent. Like at this point in Diggs' career, I still think he's pretty good. Like I
Nico Collins isn't good, but yeah, anyways.
He was really good last year.
I mean,
really
he was so good.
But
it's so annoying how much his yards per route run pop.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy.
We always can throw that
He's
one back
good.
at you.
He's
But
good.
if you think he's maybe not that good, Tank could just be this team's best receiver. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, like, we look back at the end of the year and, Tank was just the truth. They couldn't take him off the field. He was that good. And he's going the cheapest of the three. I'm gonna bet on that given the price versus his teammates.
Also, Stroud loves Tank Dell. Like, he wanted to draft him. Like, he talks about him constantly, almost a weird amount. Like, I think that's what originally, was the appeal for Tank Dell back before he went mainstream when he was a hipster pick. Was like, oh, hey, like Stroud really likes this guy. So we have to remember that. I also think that with Diggs, there's a potential and outcome for just complete catastrophe, like a bottom falling out situation.
It could be one of those like Patriots type things. I can't remember who it was. I mean, Bill Belichick released a few like star receivers midseason. I think Randy Moss was released midseason.
Yes, right. I mean, I could see like if Diggs went to a team with like very little target competition, like no elite receivers, I feel much better about him because it would finally be the situation he wants, which is, who cares about winning? I'm going to get 15 targets a game. Okay, that's what Stefon Diggs wants.
Pat, and were both Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon released midseason by like the Patriots? I think
Ocho Cinco might have been too,
but
continue, Denny.
But in Houston, he has not one but two really good receivers ahead of him. And I don't think that he's going to take kindly to games where he's being out targeted, 10 targets for Nico Collins, 11 targets for Tank Dell. And he's on the sideline, hands on hips saying, well, I'm not going in. I'm not playing. This is not what I signed up for. Yeah, again, because I mean, look, he's proven, like he's shown, like he doesn't care about the team. Okay. And so the Texans taking him in, I don't know what they're thinking, honestly. I feel like this is going to backfire big time.
I think they're thinking that CJ Stroud is like a special personality, and I think they think that CJ can manage it, which seems true.
But like is a 31-year-old, like, Diggs has played in a lot of big games, Minnesota Miracle. Like, is he going to be like this 23-year-old kid? I can't wait to let CJ Stroud tell me where to line up before the snap.
Right. It was very interesting. The moment the Texans traded for Stefon Diggs, they were like, we're just going to give you free agency in a year. I thought that was very curious when they had him.
There you go. That's another. Yes. Thank you, Kyle. I forgot to mention that. I think that everything points to the Texans being like, okay, like we know this guy's a loose cannon. Maybe he's not going to be long for the team.
It's not outside the realm of possibility that he's like cut or traded in October. Not the most likely outcome. But yeah, I did have that sticking in my mind, like a Patriots, like what's the word that they used for like when you're a troublemaking receiver? I forget.
Diva?
Diva. Or no, what's the what are they? Mercurial.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
If he's mercurial, that they might just cut him. Not the most likely outcome, but it could happen. So, but we'll segue this into CJ Stroud. So, wait, did you say you're back in on Stroud since being out on him 2 days ago?
I mean, I'm literally only going to do this when drafts fall in such a way that the prices on Diggs, Nico, and Tank are palatable. But like, I'm never going to go into a draft being like, oh, this one just totally makes sense as a CJ Stroud thing. The other thing that makes Stroud, this is very hard to do in best ball specifically, is when the quarterback and all his weapons are expensive and there's no fallback option. Your fallback option, like let's say you're on the clock at pick 72 and Stroud is still there, 10 spots after ADP. Well, what's your plan? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go into the final with CJ Stroud and Dalton Schultz? Like, that's how you're gonna win? Like, probably not. Like, you probably lose anyway to the CJ Stroud Diggs team, even if that is what you need in week 17. So I hate that. It used to be the problem with Mahomes, Reek and Kelsey were so expensive. Now it's the opposite. Now you take Mahomes and you just have like a menu of guys that you can take that you're like, sure, whatever. I hope Rashee Rice is not in federal prison by the time the season starts,
Same.
But so it's just like, it's like an expensive quarterback who doesn't run, who you're not picking any value up because none of his weapons are cheap. So it's just like, what are you really hoping for? The last guy I can remember being like this, where I was really not in on it, was Joe Burrow, and it just like did not kill me to not take Joe Burrow at quarterback 6 or whatever any of these years. He would have to, he'd have to do kind of the baseline I think of for like a like a non-running quarterback to help you with running is like 404, like what Aaron Rodgers used to do. And I don't even really know if Stroud can do that. I don't think
so.
he can.
And he won't need to. Also,
Sure.
is like part of the problem. He just doesn't.
Yeah, he could if he had like a terrible line and bad receivers, and they were like play hero ball. He's
Yes,
athletic
he
enough
could.
to do it.
Yeah,
he's
could.
athletic enough to do it, but it's not stylistic for him, and it's not needed right now with the way team's set up.
You mentioned.
I'm sorry, real quick. Stroud, I see him at QB5. You said he's QB6 right now, Davis, and underdog.
It depends on where you're doing it. He's
QB5 right now and underdog.
Okay, so
he's ahead of Mahomes somewhere.
With no rushing, I would take Richardson. I mean, because of his lack of rushing, I would take Richardson over him, Jordan Love over him, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Brock.
You
Purdy.
take Jordan Love over Stroud? Sure about that?
Yeah.
Jordan Love, you want to talk about a guy who can run when he wants to. I don't know if he will, but he can.
I don't think he's going to.
I take Caleb Williams.
Can't tell if Denny's doing a bit or not.
It sounds kind of like a bit almost.
No, it's not a bit.
I mean, the Caleb Williams situation is very analogous to the CJ Stroud situation.
He's gonna run a lot more than Stroud.
I don't know.
Well,
that.
yes. Yeah. He is.
Caleb likes to score TDs with his legs. I will say that. He likes to score. So let's say they both say redraft, none of the best ball stuff. Straight up, do you want CJ Stroud or Joe Burrow? It seems like it's probably still CJ Stroud.
It's still CJ, but like neither of them are even close to my core strategies. Like I bet I end up combined those two guys on less than 5% of my teams, probably. Like I'm not saying like the week 17 game specifically, Houston, Baltimore made me more interested, but it didn't make me enough to like change my strategy.
Denny, who's scoring more fantasy points this year, Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud?
Oh, Jaden Daniels.
Not according to ADP. He ain't.
Well, I mean, yeah, like this. I mean, we know how this rushing thing goes. Like Jaden Daniels could be really bad and also really great for fantasy.
I still keep taking, man. If Jaden Daniels is throwing or running as much as you think he's going to, I just think the defense is going to love that, and they're going to absolutely love like blowing him up.
Well, yeah,
and it's not going to be nearly as
every time Jaden Daniels gets tackled, it looks like a skiing accident. It's really unpleasant.
Jeez. We've been on a tangent that it looks like jackass stunts.
I mean, have you seen?
He didn't really need to let a wheelbarrow come down the hill and hit him. Like, was that really necessary?
I mean, Hayden Winks had that video of first game of the season. It's 1st and 10 in the first corner, and he just lines up QB power and just runs right at the linebacker and allows himself to be pile drived. First game of this, he's just like, whatever. First game of the season, let's do it. No reason.
Just trying to get his wits about him, and I'm going to take this take to the grave and also to the poorhouse. But like, if Jaden Daniels is running as much as fantasy managers need him to, I think the defense is like, oh hell yeah. And that it's
the thing about Daniels though is he, much like Richardson, why we can feel more optimistic is he's a really good deep thrower, and that was the thing with Richardson was like, well, it's hard to just be like, all right, 8 men in the box, like do your worst, because he can throw really accurate deep balls. And McLaurin, it's like the only thing McLaurin can do is he's really good down the field. So you can see how that would not work out for the defenses.
I guess we'll put a pin in the Texans talk, and we will be right back after this. It will be a championship Sunday to remember. Manchester City eyes an unprecedented 4th consecutive title, and Arsenal aims to finish atop the table for the first time in 20 years. Find out who is crowned this weekend on the networks of NBC, Universal, and Peacock. Man, Davis, I can't deal. If Man City, they're going to do it. I just can't deal with it, man. I'm so over this.
I mean, my team is the last team to beat them. They tried. They did their job. Aston Villa beat Manchester City in December, Pat. It's May. It's May, dude. Stuff, it's May 16th, and they haven't lost since December.
You want to talk about cheating? You talking about the fake Kyle Shanahan touchdowns, the fake Man City,
Man City cheating.
Books.
How is it fake?
Because the books have never been more cooked. Didn't he?
They have Denny. This
Okay.
team that's owned by the Saudi sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah, okay.
It's not the Saudis. I think
it's Qatar. It's
either Qatar or the UAE. Sorry, we forget.
one of these UAE, I think actually. They have 115 charges against them of financial mismanagement, but because not the league, the actual nation state of Britain is so indebted to this private wealth fund that they can't really be persecuted.
Yeah. No, it's the book. So they've been like caught dead to rights by both the Premier League and the Champions League, UEFA, and they're just like, well, what if we're not caught dead?
They go to court and literal like the prime minister has to get involved and be like, wait. Actually, let them have their football. Let them have the soccer.
Is it a classic? Let's see them wriggle out of this one, and then they immediately wriggle out of this one.
Immediately wriggle out. Yes.
Brexit has really done good things for that country. Really,
people are saying this more and more all the time.
More and more. That's yikes. Speaking of Jexit, Josh Jacobs.
Many are calling it. Yes.
Josh Jacobs gone from the Green Bay Packers, gone from the Las Vegas Raiders, and apparently gone from Davis Mattek's draft board. He wants nothing to do with him. Is the RB10.
What are we hoping for here? Didn't
earlier you say if so and so went to the Packers,
if Saquon went to the Packers,
I'd be elated about Saquon on the Packers.
What's the difference between Jacobs and Saquon?
Well, Saquon can create explosive plays. Jacobs doesn't offer you any of that. The thing that Jacobs it's very Mixon-y in the sense of he can totally show up and handle 85% of your touches. And then Matt LaFleur, upon drafting Marshawn Lloyd, immediately says, philosophically, I'm pretty committed to using 2 running backs, if not more. So it just doesn't feel like he's going to get the 22 touches per game necessary to sustain his fantasy value. I'm again, much like Diggs, I can see how I'm wrong on this one, which is, Marshawn Lloyd stinks. AJ Dillon stinks. Emmanuel Wilson stinks.
AJ Dillon stank for years, though, and they kept giving him the ball. I totally agree. Matt LaFleur seems just totally obsessed with the 2-back approach. Like nothing will shake his faith in the 2-back
Nothing
approach,
will shake it.
including even the number 2 being abjectly terrible. Like he just doesn't care.
And I think Marshawn Lloyd's probably like pretty well suited to being a running back 2 in the NFL. Like what's the difference between playing at USC with Caleb Williams and playing for the Packers? Honestly, really. And Marshawn Lloyd was really good in that role, in college. So I think.
The Packers do occasionally block is one difference.
They do, and their defense does know how to tackle. I mean, you want to watch it. Go back and watch go back and just watch a random USC game from like November, and you're like, wait, people were downgrading Caleb because this was his defense. It's absurd. It's crazy how bad their defense was. And I don't even watch defense.
There's lore of this show of us saying everything Dalton Kincaid ever did was just one game where he annihilated USC. He killed them.
Well, Davis, you're an Oklahoma Sooners fan. Is Lincoln Riley just the most glorified QB's coach, or is he getting a raw deal? Is he actually a good coach or not?
I mean, dude, okay, what do you mean by good coach? Like, can Lincoln Riley just like take any 5-star quarterback, high school recruit in the world and get him to be a first-round pick? I mean, I think the evidence definitely suggests yes. Is he a great leader of men? Can he hire a good defensive coordinator? No, probably not. No.
Well, he's a really bad
is this coach is good? Is this coach good? When that answer is, well, what do you mean good? No is the answer.
Well, here, I'm a Sooners fan, and I would have preferred having the number 1 overall pick in the draft every year for a decade compared to what we have now, which is like an overachieving, gritty team that like no one really cares. This current era of Sooners football, there's no point for me. We're not relevant anymore, and it was nice having Kyler and Baker and Caleb and Jalen Hurts. Like, that was awesome. And outside of the championship they won when I was 10, those are like some of my best memories rooting for them.
Honestly, the Buckeyes are kind of the same way. Where I'm like, we have 45 first-round receivers, and we lose first-round playoffs. We get beat by Michigan. We've been relevant in that sense, but like, I need a natty here someday. And with the amount of talent we've had, I cannot believe we really haven't been that close since just before I went to college.
Yeah, like Ryan Day is totally fake, right? Like Ryan Day.
I know his hair dye is.
You just got to look at the color of his
joke.
beard. To see that. By the way, Lincoln Riley, the leader, Lincoln Riley almost starts tearing up like the second a reporter enters the room.
I know.
Probably not a great sign.
Why is he always so upset about it?
I don't know. He's really scared of reporters. Are we really scared of taking Rachaad White, Davis in the 5th round? 53.8 ADP, RB14.
So
again, talk about scams. Rachaad White last year.
Here's the deal. So I put this tweet out, and obviously, like, people like Rachaad White. So, like, JJ sends me a message, and he's like, most of that list is good, but, like, what's the deal with Rachaad White? So, Dave Canales, if you go back and look at all the times he's called plays, he, like, really clearly prefers to not have to rotate guys in and out. He really likes to have one guy. It's kind of one of the reasons to be in on Jonathan Brooks, I think. And also, if you look at that Buccaneers depth chart, I mean, you want to talk about the despair, dude. I mean, like, they're trying out, like, Chase Edmonds on, like, his 9th team, you know, like, it just, you know, Sean Tucker, an undrafted free agent out of Syracuse with no knees, like, literally, like, was not able to participate at the combine because he was so injured. Really bad. And, I mean, I'm not saying Bucky Irving is, like, this great prospect, but he's probably better than anyone else who was on the team last year, you know, other than Patrick Laird, who for whatever reason they didn't elevate him from the practice squad. I think they probably would have been well served by that. But no one thinks Rachaad, even people who are super bullish on drafting Rachaad White at running back 14, think he's like a special talent.
Well, yeah, even the people drafting it's not actually good. I'm not saying he's good.
I'm not saying he's good. He's just it's like guys who are not particularly efficient. If there's volume concerns at all, those are the guys who kill you. Those are the guys who end up giving you like 11 points week after week. And it's like, that is to be shooting for a ceiling of like 16.4 fantasy points per game is just not what I want to be doing with like my 4th pick.
Well, Liam Cohen.
I was on the PFF metrics and I was like, where is Rachaad White? I know he didn't do well. Scroll.
You got to keep going.
Scroll. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, there he is, right next to Ezekiel Elliott, smack dab next to each other. He was dreadful in the PFF stuff. He was dreadful in the next gen stuff.
Yes.
2 years ago, he was dreadful in the next gen stuff. I think it's pretty likely that he condenses the work. I like Bucky Irving. He did not test like an NFL caliber athlete. And after that, like Davis said, nothing. There's just not a live body on that roster. He probably condenses the work again and is a, you know, you look back at the end of the season, he's the RB7, like we talked about Zeke a few years ago, and it's a small win. I think there's a pretty good chance he's a small win. I don't think he's an NFL caliber runner to the point that he can be a big win where he can go out and be like, oh, he was the guy you needed to have. He hasn't shown that talent as a runner. He's shown the opposite of that talent as a runner, and he's been just good as a pass catcher. He's been lighting the world on fire as a pass catcher. And that was his calling card coming out of college. He was truly one of the better pass catching prospects we've seen in a while. I don't know if he's that guy. He turned out to be just pretty good, not great.
So he's got 50 balls back-to-back years. He was more efficient as a pass catcher last year than he was as a rookie, I'll say.
Yeah, he wasn't incredibly efficient last year, though. He's good.
He wasn't incredibly inefficient, though, like he was.
He's fine. But, like, do we want to be drafting guys who are like, yeah, he was good, he wasn't great on this one aspect, he's pretty bad on the other one, as high as we have to take Rachaad White? No.
He looks like a clear league losing pick, let's be real.
Yeah, I think Dave Canales, I think he was an invention of Dave Canales, a product of Canales being like, we're not fine. We're just going to settle on White. He's going to run all the pass routes. He's going to get all the high value touches. It is what it is. He hasn't been good. In fact, if you look at next gen stats, Rachaad White over the past 2 years is basically Miles Sanders. He got
336 touches last year. Like, come on, bro.
It's not happening.
Jonathan Taylor workload. He's not getting over 275 this year, even if he does condense all the work.
Ironically, Zeke was pretty efficient as a pass catcher last year, too. Like, he looks a lot like Zeke does, but today, not like our idea of Zeke all back in the day. He's actually stunningly similar to what Zeke offers the team today. Can maybe hit the hole and gain the 2 yards, nothing more that are blocked. I'm a little skeptical White can even do that, but he's not breaking long runs. He's not being, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler level pass catcher. He's probably in the next tier of guys. Like,
he's like a Kyle Juszczyk pass catcher. It's just he just gets a lot of them.
Yeah. Like, why, if we think he's really indistinguishable talent-wise from Zeke, do I not get to pay Zeke prices?
Very, very good point. I can't remember if Liam Cohen is a committee guy or not. Kentucky always has like 5 different running backs, it seems like.
Not Ray Davis. Ray Davis was
maybe
oldest running back in the world and also 300 touches in college.
All right, well, never mind. That's a good sign, actually.
Was Chris Rodriguez the Commander's backup? Was he Kentucky or Kansas? I'm pretty sure it was Kentucky.
He was Kentucky, but that might have been the year. That was the year Liam Cohen was with the Rams.
Cohen bounced between Kentucky and Rams a bunch of times because I don't think he liked McVay or whatever.
Liam Cohen really, really likes the Bluegrass State. Really likes it. He was the one guy ever who went to LA and then came back to Kentucky. No offense to Kentucky. I live in Missouri. I understand. Right?
Basically Kentucky.
Yeah, come on, man. Davis knows, but come on, man.
All right, can we get to the PPR scam of all time?
We can. The final player. Who is the PPR scam of all time, Davis?
Alvin Kamara exists on nothing but PPR scamming. Like if you take Alvin Kamara from leading the team in targets to just like a 13% target share, you're talking about Zeke level production.
Yes.
Like it's and like, look, God bless him, but Sean Payton is not there anymore. No. Like Derek Carr his shoulder is just hanging out of its sock. It's just like,
come on, man.
Dude, what are we doing? Alvin Kamara, running back 17. I think would take 10 running backs that go after him ahead of him.
Davis, I actually think that Derek Carr, an injured old Derek Carr,
is good
in this offense. I think it's good for Kamara. I think that this can work out. I really do. And look, Kamara is like per all the metrics like a bottom 5 rusher in the league. Okay.
Yeah.
Like really, really bad.
Per the eye test too.
And I don't care at all. I don't care at all. He runs all the routes. He gets those short receptions. He doesn't do much with the receptions anymore, but who cares? At RB17, I feel like, I mean, I'm not like targeting him in best ball, but I don't mind taking him in that RB17, RB19 range.
All right. Let me offer a counterfactual, which is that Kendre Miller, who they drafted in the 3rd round, had a high ankle sprain in training camp. So basically, rookie running back, you missed training camp like Jover. Like there's just nothing. There's nothing for you there. He's not hurt now. He'll be there. Miller will be there for all the stuff this year. We're like if Kamara, like I'm saying,
they didn't add anybody, Davis. They didn't add anybody. Confidence in Kendre.
So like if you remove 20 targets from your projection for Alvin Kamara, where does he go?
That's tough. Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough. It's really tough.
You're talking about outside RB24.
You're talking about get ready to learn Commanders in 2025, buddy.
Oh, for sure. He's going to sign a 5-year contract with Commanders.
Laughing very hard at my own joke. But
after they move on from Eckler, it's Kamara, and then after that, Rachaad White's contract will be up. Rachaad White.
No, this all checks out. This is happening. We got to record this. Producer Adam, clip this and
then I was gonna say, we're recording, right? We're not just hanging out.
Reminder for 3 years from now. We need it.
I said that was the final player. It's actually one more player quickly, Davis, because you're making a negative Najee Harris case. And everyone's like, no, duh. Like, cool, Davis. But you're making the negative case. So there are people actually making the positive case. I've run into this. A lot of smart people making the positive Najee case on Twitter.
The argument now is the same argument you'd make for like Zeke, which is like, I don't know, sometimes you just need 12 points. And now that he's running back 24, like Jacob Sanderson tweeted at me. He got
Jacob Najee, extremely smart. And yes, he's very in on Najee.
He got him. He's tweeted me. He got him at like pick 102 in one of these drafts, and I'm like, honestly, I can intellectually grant that that's probably fine, but I'm still not gonna take him. I'll take Trey Benson. Like I don't care. Like I just don't want to. Like imagine you do actually get a team through to the finals, and you're just scrolling. You're so excited. You're like, oh my god, like I can maybe win one of these tournaments, and you look at your roster, and you're like, oh. I have Najee Harris on this team. I have to root for Najee Harris for the biggest sweat of my life. Like, you don't want to do that.
No, it's never been more over.
But it is the same argument pretty much year over year, which is like he
does get a little cheaper every year. He gets a little, except for he doesn't even get the ball anymore. Like
I know, and they will be run heavy. Gosh darn it.
I keep forgetting it's Art, man. He's gonna get away with it. Najee, he's motivated too. He's gonna show up. Najee Harris has lost 20 pounds. I wish a reporter had reported this.
I would that would be worse. Unironically, Najee showing up lighter. Let's like no, that's Jalen Warren's job. You need to be like 240 pounds. You need to be
Mike
like
Allstott.
Yes. He needs to be a bowling ball.
That's actually an interesting point. It's an interesting. I wish we could just keep going forever, but we have to stop. Really, really good stuff. Dave, I'm taking an hour. I didn't even tell you it was gonna be an hour. You never asked, so I didn't tell you.
I assume I'll get someone on the line and be like, dude, we're talking about New York Giants slot snaps for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So an hour is like nothing.
I had one thing on Najee that I forgot to mention. I'm sad to report that he was top 10 in rush yards over expected per rush.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
So he gained over 20 yards on a rush for the first time in his career. Doesn't that feel like a fake number though? I feel like the rushing yards over expected stuff can be fake because it feels like it's kind of predicated on blockers and locations of defenders,
You could have like 165-yard rush that was supposed to be a 1-yard rush too. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely how over expected works. In theory, rush yards over expected is like specifically supposed to account for like what is blocked and then what are you getting. But I do note, like, I think someone framed it really well that like,
I like the stat, by the way.
So like all of the error in your model saying this is how many yards you should get. This is what you actually got. Sort of the difference is what you call the error. Are we just going to attribute 100% of that to the running back? That seems a little overconfident in what we're measuring. Like a lot of times, like, weirdly, like 3 teammates all show up top 10. Like there's probably something going on there. Najee was, I think, a little better last year than he had been in previous years, but I don't want to say he's like a top 10 runner.
No, not even close. And rush yards over expected. It's interesting, but it's like a lot of it. It's interesting as long as it's not the only stat you're looking at, basically.
Yeah.
You not want to be building the entire house out of RYOE, as the kids call it. Yeah. So yeah, Davis, thank you. So Dave, what do you have going on right now? What do you want to tell the folks about?
Check me out every day on Sports Grid. You can if you're at a bar or an airport, they definitely have it on. Kyle's been on actually. Kyle hopped on Sports Grid television. You can listen to the Sports Grid Fantasy Football Podcast or the Takecast if you just search my name on your podcatcher of choice. Those will pop up.
Davis, one of the absolute best podcasters in the game and one of the best minds in the game.
Thank you, Davis.
Really, really appreciate you coming by. Thank you so much to Denny. Thank you so much to Kyle. Check out Kyle's article on the NFL schedule release. Check out my article next week on the NFL's general managers. I'm putting it on air, so I actually finish it. Saying that. So check that out. Thank you so much for listening. Denny and I will be back next Tuesday.